mengumumkan ketibaan div-div terhormat berserta pegawai pengiring masuk ke dalam Dewan. Hadirin diminta untuk berdiri. Hadirin dipersilakan duduk. Sirih berlipat, sirih pinang, sirih dari Pulau Mutiara. Pemanis kata selamat datang, kalimah bismillah pembuka bicara. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Awang Bulgiba bin Awang Mahmud, Timbalan Naib Chancellor Akademik dan Antarabangsa Universiti Melaya. Yang berusaha Pengerusi MAPITA Encik Muhammad Isa bin Muhammad Dom. Yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Faisal Rafiq Muhammad Andikan, Timbalan Naib Chancellor Pembangunan Universiti Melaya. Yang berusaha Dr. David, Pengarah Pusat Teknologi Maklumat Universiti Melaya. Yang dihormati Dr. Suhazimah binti Zazali, Timbalan Ketua Pengarah ICT Mampu. Yang dihormati Encik Muhammad Imran Kunalan Abdullah, Pengarah Talent Enablement MDEC. Pengarah-pengarah ICT, IPTA, IPTS, pegawai-pegawai universiti, tuan-tuan, puan-puan dan hadirin yang dikasihi sekalian. Bersyukur kita pada hari ini kerana dapat berkumpul untuk sama-sama pada persidangan ICT Universiti Awam yang merupakan acara julung kalinya diadakan. Ianya diilhamkan dan direalisasikan oleh Majlis Pengarah ICT IPTA. Keahlian MAPITA adalah terdiri daripada pengarah ICT dari semua 20 universiti awam di Malaysia. Kami mengucapkan selamat datang dan ribuan terima kasih di atas kesudian hadirin memeriahkan lagi majlis kali ini. Hadirin sekalian, lebah bersarang di rumpun buluh, jatuh tertimpa di pohon nipah. Tangan menyusun jari 10, majlis berlangsung penuh barakah. Sebelum tirai bermula, sebelum majlis dibuka, sebagai memberkati majlis, dijemput Saudara Muhammad Firhan bin Sarulan untuk memimpin bacaan doa. Dipersilakan.
A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma innaka halqul azim, innaka sami'un alim, innaka ghafurur rahim, innaka rabbul arsyil azim, innaka barul jawadul karim. Ya Allah, Engkaulah yang mempunyai segala kepujian. Engkaulah yang berhak menerima segala kepujian. Engkaulah yang berhak menerima segala kesyukuran. Engkaulah yang memiliki segala pemerintahan. Di tanganmu segala kebajikan. Kepada Engkaulah kami kembali segala urusan. Allahumma ya karimu ya rahim. Cucurilah rahmat dan rahimmu ke atas majlis pengarah-pengarah ICT IPTA 2016 yang diadakan pada hari ini. Berkatilah ia dari awal hingga akhirnya. Jadikanlah hari-hari yang kami lalui dimulai dengan rahmat-Mu, pertengahannya barakah dan disudahi dengan keampunan-Mu. Dan juga jadikanlah hari-hari yang kami lalui permulaannya hidayah, pertengahannya kemenangan dan diakhiri dengan kecemerlangan. Ya Allah, Tuhan yang Maha Esa lagi perkasa, kami memohon kehadrat-Mu semoga Engkau jadikan majlis sebagai satu wadah untuk kami bersatu padu, bekerjasama dan bantu-membantu di kalangan kami, dan juga demi membangunkan dan memartabatkan bidang ICT ini di bersada arus perdana kecemerlangan negara. Satukanlah hati-hati kami ini agar menjadikan kejayaan dan kecemerlangan sebagai matlamat kami yang utama dan bersama. Ya fa'alu lima yurid. Kami juga memohon perlindungan darimu dari segala perkara yang boleh mencacat celakan majlis kami dan dari segala perkara yang melalaikan kami dari berbuat taat kepadamu. Kepadamu juga kami serah segala urusan kami. Rabbana alaika tawakkalna wa ilaika anabna wa ilaikal masir. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina azabannar. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Amin, amin, amin ya rabbal alamin. Terima kasih saudara Muhammad Firhan. Adat bahasa menyampaikan pesan, adat upacara menyampaikan ucapan. Bagi meneruskan majlis, dengan segala hormatnya menjemput Encik Muhammad Isa bin Muhammad Dom, pengurusi MAPITA, untuk menyampaikan ucapan alu-aluan. Majlis mempersilakan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Terima kasih kepada saudara dan saudara pengacara majlis. Yang bahagia Profesor Awang Bulgiba bin Awang Mahmud, Timbalan Naib Chancellor Akademik Antarabangsa Universiti Melaya, Yang berbahagia Profesor Faizal Rafiq Muhammad Adikan, Timbalan Naib Chancellor Pembangunan Universiti Melaya. Yang berusaha Dr. David selaku pengurusi penganjur MAPITA ICT Conference 2016. Yang berbahagia Dr. Swazimah Zazali, Timbalan Ketua Pengarah Mampu ICT. Cik Imran Kunalan Abdullah, Pengarah Talent Enablement MDEC. Encik Freddy Saili, CTO IBM. Ahli Majlis ICT UM, pengarah-pengarah dan CIO ICT Universiti Awam Malaysia, pengarah-pengarah ICT daripada Universiti Indonesia dan Thailand, CEO dan CTO syarikat IT yang bersama pada hari ini, staf IT Universiti Awam dan swasta, serta para pembentang dan sidang hadirin peserta konvensi sekalian. Alhamdulillah, syukur kita kepada Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala kerana dengan limpah kurnia dan izinnya dapat kita bersama-sama hadir ke MAPITA ICT Conference 2016. Pada kesempatan ini, saya selaku pengurusi MAPITA dan bagi pihak pengarah-pengarah ICT IPTA dengan rasa rendah diri dan ingin merakamkan ucapan penghargaan dan jutaan terima kasih kepada Universiti Melaya, khususnya Dr. David, Pengarah Pusat Teknologi Maklumat UM, yang merupakan pengurusi penganjur program hari ini, dan juga semua ahli jawatankuasa yang berjaya menganjurkan MAPITA ICT Conference 2016 yang jurung kalinya diadakan pada kali ini. Di kesempatan ini juga saya ingin mengalu-alukan kehadiran semua peserta dan para pembentang dari Universiti Awam dan swasta serta para exhibitor yang terlibat dalam MAPITA ICT Conference 2016. I would like also to thank our friends from Indonesia and Thailand that also here today. Diilhamkan dengan tema Digital Trends in Universities, Universiti Melaya selaku penganjur telah menyediakan agenda program yang pelbagai sepanjang 2 hari ini yang merangkumi perkongsian pengetahuan ICT di kalangan Universiti Malaysia dan sesi teknologi update oleh para exhibitor dari syarikat swasta yang terlibat. Seperti semua hadirin sedia maklum, tujuan MAPITA ICT Conference 2016 ini dianjurkan adalah sebagai satu platform kepada para peserta dan pembentang bagi bertukar-tukar idea melalui perkongsian pengetahuan ICT di kalangan Universiti Malaysia dari sudut pengurusan infrastruktur dan infostruktur di universiti masing-masing. Penganjuran MAPITA ICT Conference 2016 juga boleh diterjemahkan sebagai komitmen berterusan MAPITA dalam usaha membantu dalam menambah baik sistem perkhidmatan ICT di universiti masing-masing. Para pembentang sekalian, besar harapan agar anda semua dapat memaksimumkan spektrum pengalaman dan pengetahuan kepada semua peserta untuk dikongsi. Secara tidak langsung dapat dilihat bahawa MAPITA ICT Conference 2016 bukan sahaja memupuk budaya perkongsian ilmu, malah turut melatih semua peserta untuk merangka, menyusun dan melaksanakan tindakan perubahan ke arah memertabatkan digital universiti di universiti masing-masing. Sebelum saya mengakhiri ucapan ini, saya sekali lagi ingin mengucapkan syabas dan tahniah kepada jawatankuasa penganjur kerana berjaya mengadakan program yang sangat bermanfaat ini. Sesungguhnya saya akan sentiasa menyokong penuh program-program yang mampu memberi impak kepada pembangunan dan perkembangan ICT di setiap universiti awam dan swasta. Akhir kata, saya juga ingin mengucapkan ribuan terima kasih serta mengalu-alukan penyertaan anda dalam semua sesi dan menggalakkan serta mengharap agar anda semua dapat mengambil kesempatan serta merebut peluang yang ada dalam persidangan ini bagi meluaskan rangkaian di antara satu sama lain. Saya sudahi ucapan ini dengan wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera dan selamat berkonvention. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih diucapkan kepada Encik Muhammad Isa bin Muhammad Dum di atas ucapan alu-aluan yang disampaikan tadi. Seterusnya, Majlis menjemput Profesor Dr. Awang Bulgibah bin Awang Mahmud, Timbalan Naib Chancellor Akademik dan Antarabangsa bagi menyampaikan ucapan dan seterusnya merasmikan Persidangan ICT MAPITA 2016. Majlis mempersilakan.
Terima kasih, saudara pengerusi majlis. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Prof. Rafiq Muhammad Adikan, Timbalan Naib Chancellor Pembangunan Universiti Melaya. Dr. Suhazimah, Timbalan Ketua Pengarah Mampu. Honoured guest, Dr. David Asivatam, our PTM Director. Pengarah-pengarah ICT, wakil dan sebahagian CIO, Universiti Awam dan Swasta. Our international guests, ladies and gentlemen. Saya malaslah nak baca, I think very long salutation. Now I'll speak in English for the benefit of our international guests. I've no prepared speech. You know, one of the things that struck me is that when I stand here before you, is that how intertwined ICT is and has been in our lives. I'm not a digital native. That will belong to our children. They are digital natives. They grew up with tablets, they grew up with connectivity and so on, and they do not know a world without all those things. A couple of years ago, just to recall, my nephews and nieces visited my home, and out of sentimental value, I keep this old phone, which is that type that you actually dial that way. It's what do you call this? Rotary dial. And one of them said, "Uncle, what is this?" This is a phone, but you can't call for pizza using this phone. That's how far removed that generation is from our generation. Like I said before, I'm not a digital native, but I have very strong connections with ICT, despite my own background, which is not ICT at all. Because I was trained as a medical doctor, and in those days, you went to the library to get journal articles to read and so on, only to find that the page that you're looking for has been ripped out from the journal. And that was very common, I can tell you this. However, after my master's degree in 96, I registered my first email address, which is a Hotmail email address. And out of sentimental reasons, I still keep that email address until now. For personal reasons, of course. I don't really use Hotmail very much nowadays. And then last month, my wife, I think, probably in reference to my ever-growing waistline, for my birthday, she bought me this thing, Garmin Phoenix 3 heart rate, connected to my mobile phone, and from which you can track where you run and what you do. And the funny thing is, the watch started changing my behavior. I became obsessive about how many steps I took and how many stairs I climbed and how many calories I burned and what food I ate, because all this could be entered and connected to my phone. And people started noticing that I was glancing more at my watch than at my phone. Not because of anything, but because all the alerts went to my watch instead of my phone. And I was getting all these WhatsApp messages on my watch saying that, oh my God, there's another WhatsApp message. Then I look at my phone. Do I need to reply? I can't reply on the watch, unfortunately. Now ICT has come a long way since 1996, when I first registered my email address. I'm not sure how many of you have legacy email addresses like Hotmail? Some people still use Hotmail, by the way. Yeah, I still have my Hotmail. And I was quite sad when my Jaring account had to be disabled because Jaring went out of business. Because I kept that Jaring account also out of sentimental reasons since 1996. But unfortunately, Jaring went out of business, so I lost all the credit from the Jaring. I said, okay, forget it. There wasn't that much credit anyway left. But because I saw this thing about how important ICT was, I thought that even in healthcare, we needed to move forward. And unfortunately or fortunately for me, I was appointed the manager of the IT department to turn around the IT department of our own hospital, PPUM. That accelerated my own understanding of IT. Suddenly, I understood network architecture because I was forced to do it. Suddenly, I understood systems development. And then, to make it worse, the VC at that time, the Vice Chancellor, Datuk Anwar Zaini, who is retired, of course, now, told me, Awang, can you do a degree in health informatics? I said, sure, Datuk. Nobody, no doctor in Malaysia has ever done a degree in health informatics. PhD. And with no IT background. I said, okay, I'll do it. Not knowing what kind of foolish decision that was. But I did. I did a PhD in health informatics, completed within 3.5 years, real struggle, mind you, but 3.5 years, out of which 1 year was spent going for classes, system development, Java, C++, learning mathematics all over again. So I finished the research in 2.5 years after I finished my classes. When I came back, unfortunately, I could not put all these things to good use because I was put into one administrative position after another. But it had one good side effect. That was because I understood both sides, the technical part and also the administrative part of running a department and a university. I understood why IT departments always cry out for better connectivity, more money, for bigger servers, more storage, and so on and so on. And so we have today many things happening in ICT in the universities. There is no such thing in the university as having enough bandwidth. I can tell you this. Every time we meet student representatives, all they'll tell you is that there's not enough bandwidth in Wi-Fi. I'm not sure what the bandwidth is for. Is it for iFlix or for Pokemon Go or what? Here in we try our best, I think, Dr. David. I think 95% of our buildings are covered by Wi-Fi now. Most of them have been changed to the AC standard rather than the old N standard. So we try to ensure that every student will have around 8 to 10 megs when they're using it with average speed. But yet, challenges still remain in Malaysia. Now, I'm not sure whether there are any corporate people here in this audience. But you may not like what I'm going to say. I have always maintained that in Malaysia, as far as internet connectivity is concerned, we are underserved and overcharged. Now, I see some nods from IT directors because I think you will probably concur with me. Betul lah? We are underserved and overcharged. Why do I say that? Because relative to our income in Malaysia, the bandwidth cost is very high. Yet, bandwidth is the one driving a lot of things. Here in this building sits a center called the National Center for Particle Physics. This center was set up a few years ago when I was during my previous life as the DVC for Research and Innovation. And the Academy of Science Malaysia asked us to set up this center. You don't find very much in the center, you just find HPC. The work, of course, doesn't go on here, because the work in particle physics, you need accelerators and so on. You need CERN, basically. So we connect back to CERN in Geneva. But that work requires the transfer of huge amounts of data. We are not talking about just mere megabytes, gigabytes. We are talking about petabytes of data. And one of the unfortunate things about our connectivity is that despite having a 7 Gbps access in it is still not enough. And that is very unfortunate. Efforts to reduce this and increase our bandwidth will be most welcome. If you were to ask me, what would be an ideal bandwidth for I said, easily 100 gig. Anything less than 100 gig, you're nowhere. You cannot compete with the Harvards and the Princetons and the Yale. Because you cannot have this kind of collaborations with CERN and all that without having that huge kind of bandwidth. Everything is connected nowadays. Everything. Pretty soon, I think my fridge will probably be connected also, but I can't see the point now because I don't know how the fridge is going to order my pak choy or my ikan bawal or whatever at the moment. But they will come in the future when probably your fridge and your microwave will be connected. Some of you probably have connected your microwave already, but you still have to put physically the food inside the microwave. Although that also may change if you want to have a robot put the food inside your microwave. But connectivity is now something that we take for granted and we must have. Of course, with connectivity, there are also other problems. Then right now, of course, sitting with 200 IT people here, I'm a bit worried that people will be trying to hack into my Garmin watch and see how many steps I've taken today. But connectivity, of course, as you can see, brings with it problems. What problems? Back in 1996, when I was still learning about IT and all that, viruses were mainly transmitted through floppy disks, that thing which holds about 1.44 megabytes of data. Mainly floppy disks. The not so easy viruses to remove were boot sector viruses and so on. Some viruses became more creative. They became word macro viruses, which initially were very difficult to remove, but later people found it was not too difficult to remove anyway. But viruses were then written for fun, and sometimes just for bragging rights. I wrote a virus, so I brought down the system today. So what? But not nowadays. Viruses have gone big time. Malware has become big business. And in some cases, it has become an organized crime. Ransomware is good business. isn't it? Particularly when data is mission critical. So unfortunately, nowadays, even though connectivity is good, but sometimes I feel we are like teenagers. Why do I say we are like teenagers? You know, for those of you who have teenage children, you probably find that they throw tantrums and they say that you don't understand them. They understand the whole world, but you don't understand them. And they do all sorts of funny things. So we are like teenagers at this time. We use technology, but sometimes we don't understand the value and the dangers with that technology that we use. The same thing with teenagers. They think they don't understand you, they should go and climb that cliff or go off into Siberia or whatever on this trekking trip, and they say that it should be done because their friends are doing it, without recognizing what problems they can bring to you. Nowadays, there are many problems, of course. Not uncommon, and I do not know, but you don't deal with this, your IT directors. But because I'm the Deputy Vice Chancellor for Academic, every time a bomb goes off somewhere in the world, the first thing I have to do is find out whether there's any staff or students from in the vicinity of that particular country. And unfortunately, that happens a lot nowadays. I think this year alone, there must have been at least 12 terrorist incidents that are significant. And the terrorist incidents don't just stop at bombs and so on. There are also other things which happen. So, we are like teenagers in that regard, because even though we have a lot of technology at our disposal, we don't fully understand what are the issues surrounding that technology. What are the things that we need to know to be able to move forward and to be aware of what is happening. That is why I really appreciate this kind of conference, looking at trends in IT and ICT, so that we can share among us what is happening outside there, what issues that we have to be aware of, and what we have to do to prepare for this next wave of issues which are going to hit us. The only constant, I think, in the ICT world is that change is rapid, and that rapid change will never slow down. If anything, I think that change will accelerate with time. A few days ago, I was interviewed by a reporter for The Star, and this was about e-learning. And I said that we have trial and e-learning week here in UM. I said, what do you mean by e-learning week? In that e-learning week, we shut down 4 faculty operations. What do you mean shut down? No classes, I said. No classes? No classes because everything is done online. So we allowed the lecturers to remain at home for that whole week for those 4 faculties. What do they do? E-learning lah. Why do you want to do it? I said, one, well, it's a great time to relax at home and sit around drinking coffee in your kain pelikat, and instead of having to give a lecture to an audience. 2, we wanted to test our infrastructure as part of our business continuity planning. Why do you need to do it? Because in this day and age, there are many incidents in the world which require us to conduct business as usual, but in an unusual manner. What do you mean in an unusual manner? What happens if there is an outbreak of, say, an infectious disease like Ebola, God forbid? Ebola is a very dangerous disease. You get it, 70% case fatality rate. So you have 70% chance of dying if you get it. There's not much that people can do in the medical field to try to treat. You can try to treat, but you have a very high chance of dying lah. Not 5%, but 70% chance of dying. Okay. So what happens if there's a Ebola outbreak in your campus? Can you just shut down for 6 months? Can you just shut down for a whole year? You can't. So what happened to your students? Nobody will graduate. So we made the e-learning week as part of business continuity planning. We said that, can we continue business as usual, and we'll stress the infrastructure to see whether this can work. And one of our core functions is, of course, teaching and learning. During the e-learning week, we learn a few things lah, which I think the IT center also learned. The first couple of days, I think a lot of complaints lah, from the lecturers and the students, because they couldn't get through. There was so much traffic. And I think they fixed it on the third day. By the time the fifth day, everybody was smiling. So we'll try it again, this time with more faculties. And then eventually, with the whole university, we'll shut down for a whole week as part of our business continuity planning. So business continuity planning requires ICT to be in top-notch condition. And this is something that we have to prepare for. So, at the end of the day, we cannot escape this fact. ICT is here to stay. And your role as the CIO of your respective university is extremely important. I cannot emphasize this enough. Any university in the 21st century which does not have state-of-the-art personnel and infrastructure in ICT is going to be left behind by every other university. So that's how important it is. Now, I'm not going to talk very much more. I have to thank MAPITA, the chairman of MAPITA, especially Encik Muhammad Isa bin Muhammad Dom, for giving the opportunity to UM to organize this conference. I have to thank Dr. David and your team for organizing this conference, and I hope that this conference will be the first of many to come in MAPITA. I can only say that this conference is likely to grow in size, in stature over the years, and perhaps in the future, I think we probably need to see how we can extend this to not just ICT people, but people who are users of ICT, to make sure that they are aware, not just be mere users who demand better and better services without understanding the issues behind this service provision. So with that, thank you very much, everybody, for listening to me. I know that sometimes I tend to ramble on a bit. Thank you very much for coming for the conference. And with the words, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I hereby declare open this conference. Thank you very much.
Terima kasih Prof. Majlis mohon jasa baik Prof Awang untuk kekal di atas pentas, dan saya menjemput Encik Muhammad Isa, Profesor Dr. Faisal Rafiq dan Dr. David naik ke atas pentas untuk bersama-sama dengan Prof Awang bagi menyempurnakan pelancaran. Demikianlah sempurnanya Majlis Perasmian Persidangan ICT MAPITA 2016. Sebagai tanda penghargaan, dipersilakan Encik Muhammad Isa mewakili MAPITA bagi menyampaikan cenderahati kepada Profesor Dr. Awang Bulgiba. Terima kasih Encik Muhammad Isa. Berdoa sudah, berucap pun sudah. Maka dengan ini, tamatlah sudah Majlis Perasmian pada pagi ini. Majlis menjemput tetamu kehormat ke bilik jamuan VIP yang telah disediakan. Majlis juga menjemput para hadirin menikmati jamuan ringan yang disediakan di ruang legar sambil melawat booth-booth pameran yang disediakan. Diharap para hadirin dapat berkumpul semula di Dewan Auditorium pada pukul 10.15 pagi untuk meneruskan majlis seterusnya. Sekian, terima kasih.